strike, fear, shame. When the burning spears strike, there comes confusion, devastation, deception, disbelief, loss, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear. Come on, let's go.
Nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict.
It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money. Your daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything. Imagine on the name you believe that. As an action. Well,
Sky. Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz. I don't like her.
Come, you be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abby? You know nothing about football, so there is no point asking. Organize your cup and not your body. This one not the couple.
Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates and business around the globe on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Of course she is.
I wanted to avoid it, and I thought of running away.
You thought of me?
What are you doing here?
David! You want your game man to stop me from entering your house?
I want to let you know that I will win the competition.
When the thunder strikes, fear, shame.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Good morning. My name is Benga Arulema. If you are just joining us, a very warm welcome to you. But if you've been with us since, thanks for still staying with us. The program is Focus Nigeria. The two chambers of the National Assembly are expected to come alive shortly as the 7th National Assembly celebrates its first anniversary. The present members were inaugurated exactly a year ago today, and I can tell you the National Assembly, this 7th National Assembly, has done well for itself. Now, to mark the day today, the House of Representatives is holding a very special plenary session. Special because some non-members have been specially invited to be part of the plenary today. Yet to be inaugurated Chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidiode Kalu, who is one of the invited special guests, will deliver a lecture titled Performance of the Legislative Agenda of the 7th House of Representatives. Mr. Femi Falano will speak on public perception of the 7th House of Representatives, while Barrister A.B. Mahmood, a senior advocate of Nigeria, will seek to appraise the legislative functions of the House of Representatives. An interesting session it promises to be in a short while in the House of Representatives. And for the Senate, you can also expect some level of a touch of celebration as well, perhaps not as elaborate as the House of Representatives are planning. And while still reviewing the polity, let's give you a brief insight into developments in Bayelsa State, the president's own state, in the last 48 hours. It's possible you are not aware that the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, that's the Bayelsa State House of Assembly, Kobowe Benson, was impeached on Monday. This happened when the president was in Lagos to commiserate with the victims of the Dana plane crash. His own people in Bayelsa were busy doing some musical chairs. Well, now for the gist behind the story, that's the development in Bayelsa. Kobowe Benson was perhaps the unlikely choice for the post of Speaker in the first place, because when Nesta Binabo became acting governor, following the skimming out of Timi Presilva, which eventually led to the emergence of Seriake Dixon, Fidi Angaye became the acting Speaker of the House, stepping into Nesta Binabo's shoes. Binabo's dream of stepping into Seriake Dixon's seat in the House of Representatives did not materialize, as Dr. Mrs. Stella Dogo had long probably been secretly assured of the office, the very reason why Mrs. Stella Dogo plunged herself into the Seriake Dixon campaign. And then Nesta Binabo could only return to the House from, that's the Bayelsa State House of Assembly, from the office of acting governor of the state. Not as Speaker that he was before he stepped in as acting governor, but just as an ordinary member. Now, Kobowe Benson was believed to have been imposed as Speaker from outside the chambers, and fingers are pointing in the direction of the wife of the president, Patience Jonathan. I don't know how, but then you need also to begin to examine all the issues, all the intrigues that led to Timi Presilva's travails. But since Kobowe's emergence, there has been grumblings, that he's not carrying the members along, he's running the House with a select group of cabals. And when lawmakers talk about that, know that behind it is the issue of money. Somehow, the situation boiled over on Monday, when a group of 11 out of the 24 members mobilized themselves to the chambers and promptly effected a change. Initially, there was an attempt to foil the coup, as the police commissioner in that state, Chris Olakped, deployed his men to prevent any sittings in the House, but they soon got a proper briefing, and so he withdrew his men to allow the coup makers have their day. So the coup makers were led by Fidi Angaye, who had tasted power, as I said before, briefly as acting Speaker when Nesta Binabo became acting governor, when Timi Presilva's time was abruptly terminated. Now, that was for that period of interregnum, which led eventually to Dixon's election as governor. The coup was perfectly executed. You know why? Kobowe Benson is away on medical checkup outside the country. And, well, depending on when he comes back, he may still be able to fight back, since majority of the members did not support his impeachment. Don't forget that only 11 members carried out Monday's coup. But then, things are happening, and happening very fast in President Goodluck Jonathan's state. Okay, before we go, a quick update on the Dana plane crash. The 3-day official money ends today. But yesterday, the federal government announced formally a suspension of the airline's operations. A statement in Abuja says the suspension would remain in force, but so when government has ordered an inquiry already. The National Assembly has also ordered its own separate inquiry, so we see how all of this crystallized. Meanwhile, the First Lady, Patience Jonathan, has denied information making the rounds in the social media that she was responsible for the Dana plane crash, as the plane was kept in the air for long because of VIP movement. Well, this morning here, let me play the advocate to the First Lady. This is unsolicited, but I will do it all the same this morning. That information on the social media is obviously not true, completely false, because the Dana flight took off from Abuja as scheduled, and it was a regular flight. I had friends who boarded the same plane from Lagos to Abuja and were just getting home in Abuja when they heard that the plane did not make it back to Lagos on its return journey. And all this happened within just 2 hours. So that plane couldn't have been kept in the air because of any VIP movement. Again, media aides to Patience Jonathan have explained in a statement this morning that the First Lady was at a function in Lagos on Sunday where the plane crash was reported, and she promptly left the venue. She was not scheduled to depart Lagos that day for Abuja or any other place, and so the question of closing the airspace for her does not even arise in the first place. Now talk of wicked rumors everywhere, so many theories, so many spins, but then the truth will always come out somehow. Let's leave all of that now and tell you that our focus, that's the focus of our discussions shortly, will be on constitutional amendment as usual. We told you that for now we are staying with this very topical issue. We are still looking at our federal structure vis-a-vis the growing clamor for more regional integration, even as there are calls for a return to parliamentary or regional system of government that we practiced before, where the regions as the federative units had greater autonomy, and so were able to develop rapidly because they not only had access to their resources, they also had more share of such revenues derivable from their regions. We'll be doing a comparative analysis of the different federal structures that we've seen around the world, as we have in the United States of America, as we have in France, as we have in Canada, even South Africa and Germany. Has our own homegrown federalism served our interest? Join us shortly after this break for the discussions.
We want a good Nigeria first.
That are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Control in. Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling, exciting, and breathtaking experience with Kakaki, the African boy.
What has been failing before was that Nigerians became so docile. They didn't ask questions. They don't show interest on issues that are really burning their fingers and even affecting them, on the cancer that is eating the nation.
We have a government that is accomplishing so little because it is attempting to do so much.
It is absolutely important that the state of our criminal justice system is made an agenda item.
If you look at Section 285 of the Constitution, it says you must file your petition within 21 days from the date of the result of the election was announced.
All right, if you just joined us, time for our discussions now. Let me quickly introduce my guest this morning. I have joining me for discussions this Wednesday morning, Barrister Lagi Innocent. Barrister Lagi Innocent is also a former member of the Nasarawa State House of Assembly, the only member of the Labour Party to be in any of the 19 Houses of Assembly of the Niger. As we're talking of the 19 other states, the only Labour Party member in the House, in any House of Assembly.
Good morning, Benga.
That's the record. Nobody has been able to beat it. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
All right. I also have joining me a very good friend of the House, professional colleague. Well, he stayed away for too long. Not that he left the business, but you will soon see the evidence of what he's been up to lately. Emeka, who also is joining us for discussions this morning, is a former editor, politics, Daily Times of Nigeria, former president, National Association of Political Correspondents, NAPOC. Do I go on? Okay, today's special advisor to the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, on research and documentation. He's also an author. He just wrote a book. I'm coming back to that shortly. Good to see you, Emeka.
Thank you very much, Wenga.
All right. Chief Dr. George Mwangalo is also joining us for discussions this morning. Former National Secretary of, was it All People's Party or All Nigeria People's Party?
I was National Secretary for both All People's Party and later All Nigeria People's Party.
Okay. Good to see you, sir. He's a politician of note. He's also into public relations now, isn't it? Right. To see you, sir. It's been a long while, too.
Well, pleasure.
All right. Two things, two quick developments. Let me start with Emeka. The National Assembly is actually a year old today. Okay, let's start with that. How far have they come?
I have not really seen. You know me. It's not like I'm being unreasonably pessimistic, yes, or critical. But really, if you look at the nation state, you look at what we're going through, I don't think the man on the street will tell you anything has improved in the country so far.
But in terms of the responsibilities of the National Assembly, there's more consciousness now. Within this last 1 year, I can tell you so many things that have happened. The probe of the privatization scheme had taken place in the Senate. The fuel subsidy regime, the capital market, the pension scam, so many things have happened. So many bills have also been passed. About 12 of them waiting for the president.
A particular point of note is actually the leadership of the House of Representatives. I mean, one cannot take it away from them. I think at the moment, Trump is showing a lot of courage and is taking his responsibility within the law as they were. Now you see a more robust National Assembly in terms of leadership, basically. But when you look at how it gets down to the population, these are some of the issues. Yes, it is taking steps. Yes, they are doing what they are doing. But how far, so far, in terms of the end users of these responsibilities? These are the way I measure achievement. It's not in how many papers you chunk out. I mean, if you have a process of production and you just open and start the engine and at the end of the day you don't produce anything, there's a problem with it. Now, governance must be about the people's welfare. Now, you must be able to assess it from the point of view of what the people get. But
we are talking of lawmakers. Their jobs are cut out for them. A lawmaker is not expected to evolve policy. His is to make laws. And they are not shorter. That is, in actual fact, they said they have passed 12 of such laws, which the president has not signed
Benga, we need to depart from that thinking, really. That the responsibility of the legislature.
What is it that they should have done that they have not done?
It's governance generally. It's just governance. This country must be governed at some point or the other, and nobody should shy away when the executive fail, or the judiciary fail, or the legislature fail. They together are the arms of government. Now, there is no one that cannot take vicarious responsibility for the failure of the other, because they are supposed to check and balance each other. So when the thing is not working, one has the responsibility to make sure it works. Now, he has no excuse, not to the generality of Nigerians, that I have done my bid. His bid is not good enough.
Okay. You are entitled to your here you are wearing two caps really this morning. You also want to come to the aid of your principal. You work with the deputy speaker. At least for me, as somebody who chronicle history now, I know that a lot has happened in the last 1 year. It is not the business of the National Assembly to enforce the reports of a probe, for example. Theirs is to expose corruption, which is what the Constitution says they should do, and they have exposed so many this year alone, this last 1 year alone.
Yeah, I think, Wenga, you are not too far from the facts or the truth. Like my colleague here rightly pointed out, the 7th National Assembly, particularly the House of Representatives, under the leadership of Aminu Waziri Tambuwal and the Right Honorable Mekinyedo, they have shown tremendous leadership. They have shown courage and commitment in terms of delivering, on their mandate. You will recall that at the inception of this 7th Assembly, they constituted a committee, under the distinguished chairmanship of Right Honorable Mekinyedo, the chairman of the Committee on Legislative Agenda. So under that committee, they were able to, articulate, the vision of the new house. And you could see that what emerged at the end of the day, the document that emerged is like a compass, which is now, driving the house. And so far, the house leadership has demonstrated, serious commitment, on delivering the goods to the Nigerian people. Like you rightly pointed out, they've been able to undertake various investigations in critical sectors of the economy. The one you talk about, the fuel subsidy regime, which was chaired by Honorable Farouk Lawa. You see what they did, tremendous job. More to shine the fact that these people belong to the ruling party, which constitute the majority in the House. They were able, to go to the facts, to deliver the truth as it were. And today, that report is being celebrated. And of course, it is not within their competence to enforce. Their own is to investigate and then expose corruption. And that power is given to them under Section 88 of the Constitution, which confers on them the investigative powers. And that duty they have rightly discharged. It is now incumbent on the executive to implement the report. Now, if you look at the agenda, I don't know whether you have time to study the agenda. There are so many issues there. They talk about good governance. They talk about interfacing with the civil society. They talk about, the rule of law. They talk about human rights, protecting the human rights of the ordinary Nigerians. And you can believe with me, everybody says so, that under the leadership of Tambuwal and the Hedwan, the House has done so well.
All right. Well, Chief, you are just like a critical stakeholder as well, but from the perspective of an outsider, an ordinary Nigerian, how would you rate the 7th National Assembly?
Yes, well appreciating the position taken by the first speaker, we must not lose sight of the fact that we must sit with the performance of the 7th National Assembly side by side their statutory responsibility. And like we all know, and like you rightly said, they had to investigate. They've done quite a lot in terms of identifying where the problems are, identifying or exposing, would I say, corruption, and a few other acts of misgovernance. And they have thrown the buck back to the executive for implementation. Taking it from that perspective, I will agree with you that they've done quite well. However, the National Assembly must go a step further, because one thing is to identify weaknesses. The other is to ensure that these weaknesses that you have identified the benefit of the majority of Nigerians. So they must move a step further. Because if we end up with identifying these challenges, shouting about these corruptions, looking at these failures of governance at various levels, and don't go to the extent of ensuring that amends are made, otherwise it becomes like empty barrels, because we are dealing with a society that is misgoverned. There's no doubt about that fact. There's a lot that has to be done at all levels.
Yeah, but beyond exposing all of these corruptions,
yes,
because I also don't want to lose sight of what Honorable Lagi said. Beyond exposing the corruption, is there where it stops for lawmakers? Because when you talk about the government, it includes everybody.
Yes, it doesn't
both in the executive. There's just only maybe two persons elected at the side of the executive, the president and the vice president. But you have a whole lot of them elected in the legislature, 360 members in the House, 109 senators. So it cannot just be left to just two members, the two elected members in the executive, because all the others are just agents and servants of those two.
I agree with you, Wenga. That's why I said that while I agree with you that they've done quite a lot, they must move a step further, because like rightly said, they are supposed to be the representatives of the people. Because what you have as the National Assembly today are representatives that were picked across the entire country. So they are the ones we are supposed to reach with the ordinary people. They are the ones we are supposed to reach to carry our message. Yes, if they now have started to identify the pitfalls, the challenges, the mistakes, they must develop a system to go a little further than that, so that we don't end up with identifying what these problems are
and just leaving it there.
We must move a step further to make sure that those whose responsibility it is to make these corrections
do so
are forced to do it, even if they don't want to do it, for the benefit of the Nigerian people.
They also have the power to make them.
And yes, certainly.
But I think it is important to say this. Really, I kept it back hoping that it was going to come in the argument. You know, in as much as we think this assembly is one that shows leadership, and everybody keeps saying the responsibility of the legislature is to make law, to oversight, to check corruption, it can't end there. The only body, in fact, in our constitutional democracy in Nigeria that has the power to punish non-compliance with its own resolutions and report is the National Assembly. They have the power to remove the president for not governing in accordance to the Constitution, in accordance to what they say, which also must be in accordance to the Constitution. Now, the National Assembly cannot really say that, look, we have passed this probe report, we have made recommendations to be implemented, and the president hasn't done anything about it, and we have nothing to do about it. Now, the point is, a president can be removed for breaches of Constitution. A president can be removed for issues in the opinion. The Constitution is very vague about it.
Which, in the opinion of the lawmakers,
yes,
constitute
misconduct.
Gross
misconduct. Now, it leaves it entirely to them. It is actually subjective and not even objective, because it is in their own opinion. That is a provision of the Constitution. Now, to now sit down and say, for example, the executive is going to purge itself of corruption, the executive is going to purge itself of misgovernance, then something must be wrong. There must be an arm of government that must wield the hammer. And it rests with the National Assembly. Now, if we have the scenario we're having now, and we're now saying, okay, look, the National Assembly is showing some leadership, and the executive is not implementing, the judiciary also has its own problem, because it is not passing, it is not being taken serious, because it is not passing the sentences. At the end of the day, yes, we hear so many cases in court, but how many convictions have we had? What major judgments have we had in recent times? Now, the issues are quite simple. Unless something is done drastically to show the independence of these arms of government, then this is a syndicate.
Okay. Well, let me come in at this point. I slightly disagree with him on this point.
Okay.
Because the powers are clearly defined.
But don't forget that I also want to say what
because the intervention I want to make is the powers are clearly defined by the Constitution. Do you understand? Unless we amend the Constitution, the power of prosecution lies within the executive arm of government.
Well, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about.
Because that's about impeachment. you can't even, it's easier said than done to embark on on impeachment process. You can't be talking about impeachment now, removing a president, or even you can't even as a legislator. I mean, as the legislature.
But the point he was trying to make is that the law empowers the legislative to enforce compliance.
Yes, let me come in.
With his positions.
No, they can only make that recommendation. For example, look at
the law empowers them. The law empowers them to ensure compliance.
Let me come in. It empowers them, do you understand, to take that decision.
Yes.
But in terms of implementing, that's the point we're trying to make. In terms of implementing, it lies with the executive.
Well, there are history of
they have identified people, who are culprits under this
if the national the first subsidy regime, that laws have been breached.
The only way they can do now, the only thing the executive first to act, they can come back and put it into a bill.
Isn't that what we have?
And make it a bill.
Overtime.
No. Ensuring that these people are sanctioned.
No.
If the president refuses to do that, then they can now exploit their powers under the constitution to override.
But I don't think that is the constitution. That is not a constitution. That is not a constitution.
That's constitution.
No, there's nothing wrong with the constitution in respect of legislative powers.
I also think that Emeka's argument is novel.
I think we're getting
I'm not so sure. No, what I'm saying that, we are talking about constitutional amendment now.
No, Emeka. I think
in a situation where the executive first to act.
The argument of our colleague here is to the fact that the National Assembly has the power to ensure compliance with any of its recommendations or observations, whatever title it goes. And that point is not subject to argument, because Emeka also agrees that the National Assembly has the power of impeachment, which can only be exercised in extreme circumstance. But prior to this time, they have the power to ensure that their recommendations are implemented.
Yeah. Even if it is power of blackmail.
Even the power of blackmail.
Even if
it is the power of blackmail.
They don't control the law enforcement agencies.
Even if it is the power of blackmail.
Because if you have a president who doesn't want to comply or agree with them,
you remove them. You remove them.
If you get to the point,
if blackmail says,
if you get to the point where
you twist arms,
yes,
and if you twist arm and it still doesn't work, then you've cut neck.
Then if we get to a point,
which is the power of impeachment.
If we get to a point where resolutions of the National Assembly
are consistently
ignored.
Yeah.
But then they have a right to exercise the power.
Yeah, which they have not even done.
Which they have not.
Yes.
That is why
so many powers.
Yes, that is
like
why
we said, power of blackmail.
That's why I started by saying that when agreeing with Honorable Ladi to the point that the National Assembly must, as part of the global institution of democracy in this country, ensure good governance. I also appreciate the fact that this present National Assembly, this National Assembly, has done reasonably well if you situate what they have done side by side, that the powers are given to them by the Constitution. There's no doubt about that. But I want to sincerely say that in as much as we appreciate what they have done so far, there is also still the need for them to go a little further to ensure that their recommendations
are
respected and implemented, because unless those things are done,
it makes the National Assembly itself a laughing stock.
He doesn't give that vibe to the National Assembly.
We also need to give it to the National Assembly that there's also something called maturity.
Yeah.
The National Assembly has come of age.
Yes,
it has become mature. The power of impeachment is not something capriciously.
No, it's an extreme situation.
I accept that. Yes, I accept that absolutely. But to say what I wanted to do was to say that there is nothing they can do will have been a fallacy, will have been false.
We have just pointed it out now that so much
there's a lot they can do.
So many other lesser powers they can exercise. Before the ultimate power.
We are now informed that...
Emeka, congratulations on the book. Remind me of the title again.
Nigeria and the Crisis of the Nation State.
Like I said off camera, very apt. Now what is the date and what motivated all of this?
Well, honestly speaking, as a journalist, we write history in a hurry.
That's correct.
Most times, whatever we write is informed by circumstances of our environment. And really, the motivation to write actually came from some years back. This back, around 1991, when we embarked on a sponsored program, exchange program by United States Information Service. Way back in 1991, about 12 journalists that were taken away from here to U.S. And we visited the White House press corps. And we discovered that there are people in the White House, reporters, who have covered the place for over 30 years. And it was amazing to discover most of them have written books, authoritative books, on the White House, on the occupants. They can, all tell you, the various people, their, mannerisms and things like that. So we felt challenged. I felt challenged. You understand? But you could see that it had lingered over the years. But that ambition was still burning in me. I should be able to do something. So that was how this idea came about. And, I've kept a column, since 2007. After, trying to make an attempt to come to the National Assembly, to represent my federal constituency, It didn't work out. Then I was encouraged to keep maintaining my presence in the media. So what we have here is a collection of my writings, thoughts that deal with this thing, the crisis of the nation state. And of course, I had to, go back, to the formation of Nigeria at inception, how the nation state called Nigeria emerged, the contradictions that were there, inbuilt contradictions. Do you understand? Of course, I had to look at the policy of association as against the policy of assimilation that was embarked upon by the French colonial authorities. Ours was policy of association, which did not encourage interaction among the natives. Do you understand? Indeed, that policy fostered what I call the policy of segmentation, social segmentation, to the extent that there were limited interactions, up to the point that even up north, you are coming from the south, you are, restricted to a particular settlement. Of course, Sabangeri, how the concept of Sabangeri came about. In the west, you had the concept of Sabo. In the east, you have Oba Hausa and Ama Hausa and things like that. So you see, the mutual suspicion, was encouraged by this kind of policy, to the extent that Nigeria did not fully integrate. And that crisis of integration is what we are suffering.
Illegals up to today.
So that's the problem, and that's the thing we try to highlight. But of course, we did not give up. We are saying that, look, there's a way we can still solve this problem. That was why I now proposed in the last chapter of this book, which I titled The Path to New Nigeria, where I was that if there's any peculiar problem, there must be a peculiar solution to deal with it. So how do we deal with this situation? If for us to come together, identify all these problems, and sit down together, we need to look at the structure of Nigeria. Because this structure as it is today, does not suit everybody. Even those who are benefited from this structure.
For this house not to collapse. For this house not to collapse. For this house not to collapse. Somebody wrote that this house has collapsed. This house has fallen. Well, here this is all about for this house not to
what was national consensus? Because that is a subtitle, Agenda for National Consensus, and which is what we are proposing, so that we can perpetuate. We can now leave Nigeria in perpetuity for...
I'm sure political researchers will find this book very worthwhile. We have not ended the task of fixing this house called that. Even right now, we're in the process again of amending the constitution. That's the very foundation of our existence as a people and as a nation. Will it be better? Like people are suggesting that if the foundation be faulty, can you actually build on it? Which is that all attempts that we have been trying to make since 1999 is to try to look at the roof itself without looking at the foundation. Whereas a lot of people will tell you that, look, it's like the cripple. Then people are saying your load is better. Say, why are you looking at it? Look at my feet now. My feet itself is where the problem is. Now that's the problem we have here. Which would have been better for us to go back to that foundation, or keep removing the roof, put thatch roof today, tomorrow the house is leaking, remove it, put zinc, tomorrow the zinc has corroded, you remove it and put asbestos. What do we really need to do?
Menga, I think we just need to look at history again. I think the problem with this country is lack of historical knowledge. Before the advent of colonialism, we were all living in sparse communities. There were never the states. And if you want to look at, you want to blame the British, I've had those arguments so many times, and it really doesn't make sense. If you look at the British or the colonial objectives for coming to Africa from the beginning was simply commercial. If you also look at the trends in international relations now, we start from commerce, economy, we came to politics where you have nation states developing, and now we are in the era of human rights. We have really come a long way to the issues of saying, look, we are looking at commerce only, we are looking at politics only. We have come to the era that Liberian president, for example, could be punished internationally for taking an action for atrocities in Liberia. This is happening across the world. Now, the world has become much smaller than we were thinking. And here we are now still thinking about creation of state. You want to have, for example, some say Boko Haram wants to have Sharia implemented in all parts of this country and so on. You look at Somalia, you look at Al-Qaeda, you look at Afghanistan, Pakistan. Nobody's going out of this global situation. The world is much smaller now than we have met it. Now, you come to Nigeria and everybody talks about constitutional amendment without really looking at the constitution. What are we amending? Let me start with that. Section 6 of the Constitution makes it very clear that the responsibility for the interpretation of the Constitution rests squarely with the judiciary. By implication, that means that unless there is an interpretation of the Constitution in any particular way by the judiciary, nobody else must give any other meaning to that provision as it is ascribed in the Constitution. We can provide new sections of the Constitution if we find out that there is a provision we need to provide for and it does not exist in the Constitution. We can repeal an interpreted section of this Constitution if we find out that that is not what the legislature meant. But to have a legislature sit down today, or have an executive that will sit down today and propose an amendment, because this is the word we're talking about. The section under which this process will come to is amendment of the Constitution. It talks about amendment of the Constitution. Alteration, yes. And that is what I'm trying to say. We can alter the Constitution. But to now say we are amending this Constitution, we must be able to respect the balance of governance and let the judiciary, first of all, interpret it. Okay. If we don't do that, just a bit. If we don't do that, it means we have taken judicial powers and given to the legislature, because they are now looking at the cold wordings of the Constitution and deciding, look, this does not say this, when clearly the powers of interpreting the Constitution rest squarely. So we need to interpret. It's only when we interpret a particular section. If we have a problem, let's implement. Yeah. What about things that ought to be there that are not there? Let me give you an example. Like what, Manga? Let's be specific on this, because what we keep having is a situation where, let me give you an example. I was called in my community to form part of a committee to deliberate on a proposal from the National Assembly as to what we need to change in the Constitution, citizenship change in the Constitution, citizenship, land use act, and the rest of it. You go back to my community. Those issues, some of those issues are not a problem at all. At all. Now, why does my community, for example, that may not have an issue with the land use act, I'm not saying they don't, or they don't have in a specific way, but right now there are no disputes, mass disputes, disturbing disputes in respect of land ownership or land tenureship in my community. Now, why will my community, for example, want to amend the law? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Yes, I understand. Now, when that has happened, you have a situation where somebody's problem is transported into all the parts of this country that we have actually no idea about. Made to look like a national problem. Yeah, because somebody is at the National Assembly and he has the media and he stands in the place it will be heard. What about the very mounting issues of poverty, issues of housing, issues of security, issues of health that every person in this country, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, or whatever, deals with? Those have never come up for amendment. I get your point. Now, doesn't that again buttress the point that the problem we have is right at the foundation of the nation, which is the law. In the sense that we didn't have a chance, all of us as people, to come together and discuss each of our needs, each of our wants, each of our aspirations, and codify such, aggregate all of that, and to form the Constitution. But we didn't have that chance. Again,
Barrister Lagi raised the issue of that we have a constitution. A lot of people will tell you, it's not our constitution. That the very first language of the constitution, where he opens his mouth to say, we the people. That is a lie. It never happened. In 1999, when this constitution was inaugurated, when President Obasanjo was sworn in, the 1999 constitution wasn't in existence. It came into existence after the president has sworn a constitution that he had not seen. It was after May 29 that the decree that brought it into existence became public.
Yeah,
and it was dated, I think, 3rd of June or so, whereas the government had been in existence since 29th of May.
In fact, even the 1999 constitution, for me, in terms of consultation, is the least that made any effort to even consult Nigerians. If you remember how that constitution came about. Because prior to that time, if you recall, there was a constituent assembly that sat in Abuja here. The one that sat in Abuja here under the Abacha regime, 1994-95 Constitutional Conference. At least people were even elected. Then some people were even nominated. So there was at least an attempt, an effort, to ensure that.
And that constitution, even though it was not used, has been described as the most progressive.
Exactly, because although provisions, which some of them were even implemented today without constitutionalizing them, that the issue of geopolitical zones, those things were there.
And the issue of corruption as a human right.
Even the issue of power sharing, the issue of power devolution, because Nigeria, let's face it, is a very plural society, very heterogeneous, and we have our own complexities, And that constitution made an attempt to ensure that all the sections of the country, one way or the other, have a stake in the governance of the country. All those provisions were thrown overboard. Do you understand? Now, this 1999 constitution, if you remember, was just a few committee under the chairmanship of Nicky Toby. They just quickly sat down and then gave us a constitution.
No, they were actually going to do something elaborate, and the government told them there was no time for that. Simply pick the 1979 constitution, look at the Babangida constitution, look at the Abacha constitution, not something
even the novel provision, even power rotation. But it was agreed at the conference that it would be a transitional arrangement that will last for 30 years. Do you understand? In the light of our own peculiar experience in Nigeria. And it was to be 5 years for each of the 6 geopolitical zones, which were articulated by the most respected, Dr. Alex Okwueme. You understand? It was to be a transitional arrangement, 5 years times 6, 30. Then after that, we can now return to normalcy. Anybody from anywhere can emerge the president of Nigeria.
Okay. Yes, like you started rightly, the problem we have is foundational. We have found ourselves in a situation where we are trying to make amends, to impute amendments into the Constitution to take care of the challenges we would have raised ab initio. We have a Constitution that started, the first instance is a lie. Because none of us made any input. We the people. None of us made any input.
I will disagree much later, but I think you can go on.
No.
You are going to tell us where you met and who you met.
We are confronted with a situation where we now have a document that our democracy is sitting on. And we have it and we've been using it. I can guarantee you that there will be consistent demand for amendment as the days go by. The truth is, like he said in his constituency, the issues that was brought there may not be the issues they are concerned about. But my area, for example, we're saying that there is no justice in the Constitution because there should be a polity of states.
The polity of zones.
The polity of zones. We are shortchanged. And there is nothing you will tell somebody on the southeast today
that you would not
that will make us accept the fact that we don't create a state. There is no agreement you will raise without addressing that issue.
Maybe viability will not
be an issue. It's not an issue at all. It's not an issue.
And even that person agrees.
Even the person agrees. But we're talking about a situation where you must present something, a semblance of justice across the board. Now, there are fundamental issues that concerns other areas, like he rightly said, issues of housing, issues of poverty. They are constitutional responsibilities. They are human rights that must be addressed. These issues must be accommodated in the Constitution. But again, the question I keep asking is, Are we running a federal system of government or a unitary system of government?
Which one do you think we are running?
I am confused.
But the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Correct. In name. In name. But there are
everything flows from Abuja.
There are basic things that will reflect a federal scenario, which are not in effect. Everything comes from Abuja. Resources control from Abuja. And that is why you find out that some of these states are not working, because we're not looking inwards. Everybody's attention is concentrated at the center. The power in the center is enormous. We must devolve power. We must get it down to the people. If we are practicing a federal system of government, we must practice it both in our actions, so that it can be seen, and only until that time will it reflect in terms of governance in the light of people. And that's where the challenge lies. We must agree on what we are doing. If we agree on the system we want to operate, let us operate it to the letter. We cannot cut it halfway. You operate the ones that suit us, you suspend the other one.
Or involve your own homegrown.
Or your own. How can you think about homegrown and you copy it from somewhere? If you want to adapt, you want to change
one example I want to cite now, from what you said.
So you must look at that as a basic issue until we get to that point when we tell ourselves the truth, what we want to do from point one. Then we are addressing the foundational issues. Because we have a situation where, like you rightly said, we've not addressed the foundation, the problem, the challenge at the lower level. And then we're operating up there. We concentrate too much power in the center, the states become lazy. Nobody's looking inwards. Our concentration is between 17th and 20th of every month, so that we can come to Abuja and share money. We have power concentrated in the hands of a few people, and they run the system. Because what is peculiar to my state may not be peculiar to his own state, may not concern the other person. Because poverty, housing may be our own problem. In their own case, it may be agricultural development. In their state, it may be transport, whatever it is. So, but we have a system where we are all compelled to look at it from a central perspective. And that is not right.
It's like the point I'm trying to make. When you look at the structure we have in Nigeria, we call it Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's like the founding fathers of Nigeria, in their own wisdom, after a series of constitutional conferences, of course, you are aware, that took place in London and Ibadan, the one about 1959, they finally agreed to have a federal structure. And what is federalism all about? It's about power sharing among the constituent units, do you understand, within that federation. And of course, the center, you have the center and you have the units. In the First Republic, we got it right. Because if you see, we just had about 3 regions, essentially, before we had the Midwest region. And there was heavy competition. In the North, agriculture, they pursued agriculture. In the East, too, under the able leadership of Bataille Makba, a lot was done. Of course, today, everybody talks about Olowo and the wonders to do with education. And the country was moving forward. Do you understand? Until the military came in and actually to run Nigeria, with the command structure that they have. And that's the problem we have. Now, the example I wanted to cite, you are talking about federalism. Now you have one unitary police. You have a governor who is in a state. He has no control over the police. And
even the best of the federal structure that exists elsewhere, where we supposedly copied from.
You even have metropolitan police. You have state police. Do you understand? Yeah. Because if you make laws like
the state house of assembly,
the state house of assembly, so how do they enforce their laws? It's
important. Sorry, let me just interject.
Because every country,
so you can't be talking about federalism.
Lose sight of its own history too. Our history.
We know there was a problem,
Exactly. Let's be practical.
Yes. And I want to use the example you cited. For example, in Nasarawa State, does it not bother you as somebody from Nasarawa State that whereas Nasarawa State is richly endowed in natural resources, you, the state government, cannot do anything about it. The license to tap whatever I say, we have to be signed by somebody in Abuja who doesn't even know where those minerals are located.
I agree absolutely.
Whether it's under somebody's bedroom or under a school or wherever.
Benga, I agree absolutely. But let's look at this things practically. President Jonathan is the president of Nigeria. So many people didn't vote for him. A chunk of the percentage of Nigerians didn't vote for him. Reasonably. he didn't get 100% for him to become president of Nigeria and expected by law, by morality, and by norms that everybody accepts him as the president of Nigeria. The army we're talking about that drafted the constitution were Nigerians. Some of them are still alive. We have a National Assembly now that takes decision for us. Not all of us voted these particular people that were there. They do not make up all of Nigeria. In fact, in most cases, they do not carry the problems of Nigeria. But yet, every of their action we say is carried out by Nigeria.
Yes.
It is accepted.
But we see
now,
we are talking of law here, and not just any law, constitution. In every country where you have situations like in South Africa, even in spite of the years of apartheid, when apartheid was crumbling, the people still talked. The ANC had they talked.
Menga,
they didn't just say we are ANC and we are seizing power.
Menga, we're not just talking.
They had several. What do they call it then? Codesons in South Africa. Went on for years. Before it gets back to the constitution they have.
Yeah, but Menga, do we have that in South Africa? Was it a constitutional amendment that made that happen in South Africa?
No, they talked.
No, let's do this.
ANC didn't just say we are the majority now, we are in power. And then just translate the constitution.
No, not only that. The government that handed over to ANC did not hand them over a constitution.
Exactly.
But
and again, you know, the international community, in moderating that process is a product of
we have really no moral. We have really no moral right to even want to compare ourselves with the struggles of South Africa at all. South Africa had moved deliberately to create a community. We didn't. We still haven't done it. If you want to draw a Nigerian constitution today, I assure you are going to likely have 250 different constitutions. Because you will have the Yoruba constitution, you are likely to have the Igbo constitution, you are likely to have the Hausa constitution. In fact, we will have the Rindra constitution.
What people are saying is that let everybody come to the table.
Everybody cannot come.
Which would have encapsulated
it. We are just asking we're only asking what is completely impossible. There is no way everybody can come to the table.
How can we come to the table? You see, let me tell you. There is no way, even in America, even in civilized democracies, that you expect everybody to agree. It's practically not possible.
Completely.
Even in families, we don't even agree. Now, if we want a constitution that you can call the people's constitution, we must create the enabling environment for talking. People will be involved in the process. Like the other day, somebody was arguing about the National Assembly. I said, listen, whether we like it or not, whether they won elections or not, whether they read themselves, they are representatives of the people. So they have the right.
If that is accepted, why is the Constitution not accepted under the same circumstances?
They have the right to speak for us because they are representing our interest. The amendments they are championing now is to accommodate the interest of the various peoples they are representing.
I mean, do you know how many local governments constitute one constituency?
Yes, no.
Do you know how many tribes, how many villages, how different people?
It
is withstanding. You're talking about everybody participating. In my local government alone, there are up to 10 tribes.
Let them talk.
My constituency has only one member. My constituency consists of 3 local governments. Can my representative talk for all of us?
Then he said he can talk for you.
That's what we're saying.
He's representing you.
Because how could the military not have talked for us? Why should this man talk for me?
Because he was elected by the majority.
What majority?
By the majority.
I like this because this is actually how it's supposed to be. We need to talk.
He was elected by the majority.
We even disagree here emphasizes the point that we need to talk.
And the military wasn't representing
The point is making that there are about 10, 20 tribes in one state.
Yes, in one local government.
It's not the issue.
Everybody must talk.
Everybody.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
so who is everybody?
Who is everybody?
Everybody today in this country, so long as we have agreed to accept democracy.
Who are we?
We of Nigeria.
Now, all right, gentlemen, we have to go now. We are clearly out of time. Chief. All right, thank you so very much. Honorable Agit, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Becca.
Becca, thank you very much. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much.
For those who want to buy, where do they get it?
Well, for now, you can get it online on www.agitproductions.com.
Okay.
AdonisAbe.com.
All right.
You can get it locally in Nigerian hotels. Of course, you can reach American Moses.
All right. That's good. I'd like to say thank you so much.
No,
At least to encourage you.
I will endorse
Chief, thank you so very much. Chief George Bogalu has also been part of this.
Thank you.
All right. That's the program. Got a little bit tough at the end, but we're talking about the Constitution. We'll see you tomorrow as we advance the issues further. My name is Bega. I'll see you tomorrow.